everybody, welcome to another episode of A Piece of Ash. This is my monthly show where I sit and do a Q&A, answer your questions, and basically talk about whatever you guys want to talk about. If you've never watched this show before, what I do is I take questions through SurveyMonkey. If you want to get your question in for my August show, this is going to be July's show, all you have to do is click the link in the video description on YouTube. So go to YouTube and click that and try to get your answers in as fast as you can. I usually talk for about an hour and I answer as many questions as I can in that time, starting at the earliest, going to the latest. So if I don't get to your answer from last month, try again, try and get it in as fast as you can so that I can hopefully get it the month after. If you don't get an opportunity to get my question answered on my show, you can always hit me up on my Facebook page, which is facebook.com/outofthebasement-into-the-street. Send me a message or just post on my page and I'm usually back to you pretty quickly. And I try and answer questions and comments in the actual comment section of my YouTube videos too. So that's a good way to ask me questions and get some answers. So we're gonna dive right in. As usual, I am going to actually be working on some models while I talk to you guys. This month's models are actually 2 Battlefleet Gothic fleets. You guys loved my Throwback Thursday for Battlefleet Gothic so much that I decided I was gonna paint some more ships. Owen actually is super excited about Gothic too. He's been dismayed by the fact that when you crawl through eBay, you need to literally give up your liver and or firstborn to buy Gothic ships now. But I happen to have stockpiles of old Gothic stuff lying around and had some friends help me out with just the dead miniatures in their miniature boxes too. Enough so that I put together 2 fairly sizable fleets, an Imperial fleet and a Chaos fleet. They were about 1,000 points when we played the first game, and I'm rounding them out to, I don't even know. I didn't add it up. I added 4 cruisers to the Chaos fleet and some more escorts, and I added 2 lights, 4 escorts, 2 cruisers, and a battleship to the Imperials. So I'm pretty sure we have 2,000 points aside now, like thereabouts, or very close to 2,000 points aside. But that gives us flexibility to play 1,500 point games. I don't really like playing much more than 1,500 points in Battlefleet Gothic. It starts to get ponderous. There's a lot of bookkeeping and a lot of like counters flying around the table. So yeah, I think we'll just do that. And once these are both neatly sitting at 2,000 points, I can start looking at the Tau stuff that I have in a baggie and my Space Marine stuff that I have in baggies too, and make some more fleets outside the stuff that came in the starter set. So I'm gonna work on this while I answer questions. And yeah, you can sit and paint with me and basically listen to me talk. So first question for the month. Eric asks, have you played Battletech before? I'm getting back into it. We could play when I visit in August maybe. Oh, while he's playing. I have not played Battletech in about a gajillion years. I have a really good friend, Randy. Hey Randy, I hope you're watching this. He lives in Tennessee now. Ironically, Randy came to Toronto. We met when I managed the Eaton Center store. Then he moved to Tennessee. Then I moved to Tennessee. Then we saw each other briefly at Games Day in like 2013. Randy, I think that was right. But like he was the biggest fanatical Battletech, I got battle on the brain. Battletech player I'd ever met in my entire life. And he is the last person that I even talked about playing Battletech with. My buddy Jay also plays Battletech, but we haven't actually even gotten hooked up since I've been home. And for the most part, other than that, I think I have a few of the plastic new starter set mechs sitting around, but I have not played Battletech in forever. I was kind of put off by Battletech, I'll be honest with you, initially, due to the fact that just creating your army list is like homework. Like it's very involved making your army list. There's a lot that goes into it. And so I didn't play it very much when I was younger. I think I played a game or 2 with other people's stuff. And then, yeah, after that, there was no more Battletech in my life, and I haven't played it since. But yeah, no, if you have gotten in touch with me, Eric, it's possible we could, but I think you and I are going to be playing more time and or Regiments Around and or Fantasy, so we'll see. Pro Legit Man asks, have you played any Spartan games, Firestorm Manor, or Planetfall? What do you think with the new Halo miniature game? Well, I'm excited about the Halo Fleet game. I love spaceship games. Owen also super loves spaceship games. So I think he may have already pre-ordered the game. I don't know for sure, but I doubt I will be able to come in here and not play it at some point because I'm sure Owen's getting into it. My buddy Chris is super into Planetfall right now. He actually built like an entire table with a scenery and a Planetfall army, and he's pretty excited about it. I love that scale of game. Like I love like epic scale games. So it would certainly be something I'd be interested in trying. I just haven't had time. I even have half the starter for, what is it, Drop Zone Commander that I need to finish painting so I can try it out because the guys at Lords of War are super excited about Drop Zone Commander and someone was kind enough to send it to me, so I definitely need to look at that too. And what's cool about that is once you put a terrain collection together for games in that scale, you kind of just have it forever. And I have tons of epic stuff. And my buddies Rod and Jordan are actually talking about playing Epic with me for Throwback Thursday, which means when I dig that set up, I have that terrain out and ready to go for anybody that wants to play any sort of like micro armor scale games of sci-fi stuff. So I haven't tried them. I briefly played Firestorm Armada, and it was okay. I'll be honest, I like Gothic better. I find that I think I'm just more comfortable with the Gothic mechanics, and it's linked to an IP that I'm kind of more attached to, if that makes sense. Like, unless it's linked to unless I'm excited about like what I'm doing apart from just like the mechanics of playing a spaceship game. I think that's why I really enjoyed Star Wars Armada right away, because I like Star Wars, and what was cool about it was it felt like I was playing through a spaceship battle in the movies. Like, the Imperial ships were big and ponderous. The Rebel fighters are amazing. The pilots on the Rebel side are amazing. Like, it felt like I was recreating a narrative from that. And so when it's kind of I don't want to say made up narrative, all narratives are made up, but if it's a narrative that I'm not super familiar with, I'm not super invested in, I'm less likely to like instantly become excited about it, if that makes sense. Which is probably why it didn't grab me initially. Peter Ross asks, what was your favorite unit or character from each of your most commonly used armies? As you may know, I love armies. And favorite units and characters, well, obviously I have love for the meat bus. That term got coined as I really got into 8th edition fantasy, was the big meat wagon of ogres that I have a lot of fun with. I also like, trying to think of what other memorable units I even have that like do good work for me. Obviously, for my dwarf army, the Beard Force has been going strong. My 3 gyrocopters, Beard Force 1, Beard Force 2, and Beard Force 3, mostly due to like the funny stuff. It's usually units like that. It's units that I give a stupid name and they do something impressive all of a sudden, and it's like, yay, they did something impressive. Like it's nothing to do really if they're good or not. It's that I like them. They have a goofy sort of background, and then once in a while they do something really cool in a game. that tends to make them more memorable. But yeah, no, those would be the units that I would definitely pick out as being impressive. For my Mercenary army, for War Machine armies, my Kiazis usually get a lot of work done. They're pretty memorable, but I think it's satisfying when like underrated units do something. So I really enjoy it when like my Revenants, my little thralls for my Alexia unit do anything cool. I'm trying to think of anything else that's like underrated that's kind of cool in those armies. I don't even know. Like it's funny. I don't see War Machine armies having a lot of personality. They tend to just look like whatever it is they do in the game to me, and maybe that's just a byproduct of the way that the game's played. But they don't. Nothing really grabs me in my War Machine armies. It like pops out in my head as being interesting. Yeah, that's it. Lady Jordan asks, do you know any miniatures games that would fall into the Cyberpunk genre? Infinity has a Cyberpunk themes to it, but it's not 100% Cyberpunk. Actually, I know a very Cyberpunk game that unfortunately is no longer in existence. It was called Resolution, and it was like pure Cyberpunk. Like, it was William Gibson, like there was, Cyberpunk, there was security, there was like hackers and deckers. It was almost purely designed to be a Cyberpunk game. It was by a company called Aberrant Games, and I'm pretty sure it's gone. I'm pretty sure that game is no longer in production, which is a shame. It had some fairly cool miniatures. I have a bunch of the 1st and 2nd edition miniatures for them. I played very briefly. I buy miniatures just because I like the miniatures, and they had some like cool sort of like Asian gang miniatures. They're all wearing like big high flat tops and some kung fu monks and like weird stuff like that, which I bought for the reason that they were that. They were just cool miniatures that I wanted to own. So yeah, no, I don't think, I can't think of any others that would fall into Cyberpunk. You're probably going to find lots of cool like Cyberpunk X miniatures from manufacturers that aren't like assigned to a game. So like if you go to like Hassle-Free Miniatures, you can probably find some cool Cyberpunk stuff. I know they do a lot of like Not stuff. So they have like a Not Major Kusanagi from Ghost in the Shell miniature. They have a Not Batu from Ghost in the Shell miniature. Reaper does tons of that too. So if you go to the Reaper Chronoscope line, so go to like Reaper.com and go to the Chronoscope series, they do tons of like, hey, check it out, it's this, it's not this guy from this video game or this movie, but it is this guy from this movie. And that's, I think, your best bet. Heresy Miniatures, Copplestone, like you're gonna find stuff that it's not designed for a specific game in mind, but you'll certainly find models for it. And then to try and find like a Cyberpunk miniature game, I think it depends on what's your definition of Cyberpunk. Is it like 90s Cyberpunk, where it's hackers and security and stuff like that? Or is it, more animated than Cyberpunk? It sounds like what you're looking for is like Cyberpunk the RPG as a miniature game. and resolution was like the closest thing I can think to of that, and it's gone. So sorry. You could definitely find tons of games that you could adapt to Cyberpunk, I think, pretty well. There's a miniature game called 7TV that's all about like pulp stories, and I think its rules would probably adapt pretty well to Cyberpunk. And it's basically designed to be like the crazy TV show that you watched when you were a kid. So like Battlestar Galactica, like the original like 70s Battlestar Galactica. You know, The Saint, like stuff like that, like spies and super science and whatever, playing it as a miniature game. So you could probably adapt that pretty well too. Willie T asks, just FYI, your videos have got me back into fantasy after 15 years out. Question, will 9th edition kill fantasy just when I've gotten into it? Dude, only if you let it. Like, here's the thing. Okay, you're talking to a guy right now who is sitting painting miniatures, a brand new pair of armies for a miniature game that has not been in production. Like, the miniatures have not been in production for 3 years. So Finecast effectively was released, and the remainder of the Specialist Games line went out of production like at least 3 years ago now. And I'm painting new armies for this game. So that should tell you, that should kind of inform you as to my opinion about how releases, whether or not releases kill things. Like, I just don't believe that. I don't believe that at all. I think that a game is as played as its players play it. Like, I played Blood Bowl last week, and Blood Bowl hasn't been in production in forever. Like, I've been playing Mordheim a lot. I've been playing Necromunda. I've been playing, like, these are games that are still around, and the rules are floating around, and you can make models for them. So 9th edition is going to kill 8th edition as much or as little as you let it to. And I think 90% of that is attitude. Like, there's, just yesterday, as I'm filming this, the Age of Sigmar stuff got leaked. We saw the starter sets. We saw their all-around bases, that they effectively look like, you know, a sort of skirmish fantasy style game. We don't know anything yet. So, like, as I'm filming this, we don't know if it's replacing 8th edition fantasy. Like, we don't know anything. Like, we don't know if it's what kind of game it is. We don't know if it's just a new box game. Like, it could be something like Space Hulk, where it's just a standalone game on its own, a new way of playing fantasy and a new timeline. It could be like the Horus Heresy of fantasy. Like, instead of going to the past, the future, they go to the past. So it could just be a post-apocalyptic version of Warhammer Fantasy Battle, and 8th edition fantasy could just stay on the shelves. Like, we don't know anything. So my opinion is, you still got all your models, you still have a game that you love. If you want to keep playing that game, like you're talking to a guy painting Gothic Fleet right now, just keep playing that game, and keep a positive attitude. Like, I think people get very emotionally wrapped up in the idea that they have invested money in something to be current, and there's an idea in their heads that something that's no longer current or isn't the current version of something is somehow invalid, right? It is no longer right or good. And I've said this before, but I think if you can get your mind away from that, you will be a much happier hobbyist. And this tends to be people that always want to be doing the current, most exciting version of things. It's a very card gamer mentality, right? Where there's sets in play and sets that aren't in play. I'm not that hobbyist. I don't think I ever will be, because I buy miniatures not because they are going to do a thing for me in a game or because they are current, but because something inside me goes, holy shit, that's cool. I have to have that and build that and paint that, and then watch little stories go around while I do math equations and geometry on a table with one of my friends while I'm drinking beer. And that's how I'm wired. And so I don't think it's going to kill 9th edition or fantasy in general. Like, it's just something new. And when I saw those pictures, what happened was I went, oh my God, that's cool as shit. I want to paint those. And I know a whole bunch of other guys are going to want to paint that stuff. And then we're going to hang out and we're going to have a good time chucking dice at each other while my crazy Angel Sigmar guys beat up on some Chaos dudes. And like even in that tone and inflection and with that juvenile language, that's exactly the words that went through my head. So I hope that doesn't sound trite. I hope that you keep enjoying the game that you like, if you keep enjoying that game. And if you can get excited about something new, then get excited about something new. And if you don't, that's fine too. Like, not everybody has to have the same hobby and be in the same hobby. That's just not reality. But whether it kills it or not, it's just new and it's different and it's exciting. And I'm all about new and different and exciting because it's just new challenges and new reasons to hang out with friends and new reasons to make new friends and hang out with new people. So I think it's gonna be cool. Ken Dorian asks, what do you think of Total War Warhammer? Now, I never played Total War. I am not really a PC gamer guy. My buddy Jay from Lords of War played the hell out of Total War, and would talk my ear off about it actually when he was my part-timer in the old Square One store in Mississauga. And I know he's super excited about it. It's because he played Total War because it was basically Warhammer the video game. And now that it is literally Warhammer the video game, but Total War, he's just even more excited about it. Like it's a game that he already likes, that is getting a makeover basically to be sort of extra how he already likes it. And so yeah, I think it's gonna be cool. The videos were pretty as hell. I would say they were the prettiest videos since the Dawn of War intro video. And that's saying something, because the Dawn of War intro video stands like the test of time as possibly the coolest Warhammer themed animation of all time. Skerolf asks, hey Ash, what is your favorite quote from the Conan movie and why? Oh, don't make me choose. How dare you? Making me choose a quote from the movie Conan. Oh, man. They're all so good. Like, there's not a bad quote in that entire movie. I have like life experiences tied to almost every single quotation from that film. Now, if you've never seen Conan, and I don't mean the remake, I mean the original Conan. Arnold Schwarzenegger, like the first 15 minutes doesn't speak. Basically, you watch him grow up, pushing the wheel of pain. That Conan. That's the movie that everyone who is into science fiction and fantasy should just watch at some point in their life. And it did more to raise me sometimes, I think, than all of the teachers and people who tried to influence me as a young man watching that movie did. So what's my favorite quote? Can I pick 3? Like, can I? Because I think they're all so good. Subudai just looking at Conan going, Black Lotus, Stygian, the best. Is probably one of my favorites. What else? Conan punching the camel and then just going, sluts. It's fantastic. And then, okay, this isn't actually a quote from Conan, but if you watch the outtakes from the movie, there's a really good outtake where he's running away from the dogs at the beginning of the movie, and he's got all his, like, it's the scene from the movie basically. He's running from the dogs, and just as he's about to like get out of the camera frame, they show you the rest of the footage from shooting that scene. And one of the dogs, because he's wearing all like the rags and stuff, like jumps forward and just bites him on the rag, and he just stops in midair and like turns sideways and falls down. And all you hear from off camera is just going, God damn it, get them off me, and just like being eaten by dogs. And it's not actually in the movie, but it's in the outtakes, and it might be my favorite. That might be actually my favorite Conan moment, was just hearing Arnold hysterically like screaming for help and not being manly at all as he was being savaged by the dogs. Rune Godi asks, I have 3 grudge ponies. Thanks for your tip on color. If you're ever in DC, I'd be honored for a game of fantasy. That was not a question, but awesome, man. I used to go to DC all the time for work. Of course, in Maryland was where the office was, in good old Glen Burnie, but I had not been there in a while. But I will shout out to the Maryland crew. If you used to go to Tower, well, it is Tower Center now, but it used to be the old Springfield store, and you were part of Killer Bee's posse, which would be Bing Lee, and of course, what's his name? Big Bill, who is still one of the funniest people that I occasionally watch say insane comments on Facebook. Then awesome, more power to you. No name. Can you do a how to play Infinity series? If not, can you explain how arrows work while you're in close combat and impetuous? Okay, so you're in close combat and you're in impetuous. So yeah, I'm not gonna do a learn to play series. I think there's tons of people out there that do them better than me. And like, I have a hard enough time just getting my rules right in the games that I play. I'm not one to teach you how to play games. I'm into play games to have a good time with people that come in, and I think I'm very good at giving general impressions of games. I don't think I'm very good at actually teaching people to play or paint, which is the same reason why I don't do painting tutorials. There's lots of people out there that do it way better than I do already. Go watch Way of the Brush and Chris's channel if you want to learn how to paint. That dude's mad patient and talented. Although you ask him how to paint red or how to paint yellow or white one more time, and he may actually end up like in a high power rifle somewhere here in the region, just trying to pick off people asking him questions. But so you're in close combat and you're impetuous. Well, if you're impetuous and you're in close combat, what happens is you make your impetuous order. You have to move towards the nearest enemy model, which is the model you're already in base to base with. So that short skill's like irrelevant, and then you can pick your second short skill. So your second short skill could be anything. Like it can't be dodge because dodge is an arrow, and you don't move if you dodge. But you could dodge in response to an attack. So your first short skill would be not to move. You basically idle because you're in base to base already and you can't break off. Your opponent would declare his arrow in base to base with you. Plus, with anyone that has line of sight to that combat, it would trigger as well. And then you're going to basically make your second short skill, and that's it. Like it's actually fairly simple when you're impetuous in combat, because all that impetuous would do is force you to move towards the nearest enemy model with your first short skill at the very least. And you're already in base to base, so you can't get any closer. Like you're not going to go anywhere. So basically, you would go right to. They would respond with ARO, and you would respond with your second short skill. And whether that's to dodge or to close combat them back or whatever. If you're an impetuous model, typically you're just going to close combat them back because you're some kind of warband, and you're usually not bad in close combat, I would imagine. And that's it. So yeah, you're already there. So there's nowhere to go. Manuel asks, "Hey Ash, how do you combine your hobby with your other pastimes? I'm pretty active, but I have time to build, paint, and play with my toy soldiers, and time for organizing projects. I was actually just talking about this with the guy I was playing with today, Andrew, because he was like, well, I hope I'm not keeping it. And I was like, well, no, I'm just going to sit and record and paint some stuff real quick while you wait for your ride, because I don't waste time. So if you're a pretty active person, then you probably know about stealing opportunity to exercise. Painting is the same way, dude. Like hobbying is the same way. Hobbying, I think, is like jogging. You just have to do it. Like you don't waste any opportunities you have to get in the stuff that you have to do. And if you treat it like that, you can be amazed by the amount that you can get done. Like I just try and combine anything I have to do that I can combine with painting with doing something else. Like when I'm sitting and editing, while I'm waiting for stuff to render, I'm usually putting a base coat on something, or I'm putting some pieces together or whatever. You guys, if you follow me on my Facebook page, you know that I have like nap time hobbying that I do. So when my kids nap, I'm hobbying. Like that's my 2 hours-ish, usually if my son doesn't wake up. If I time it right and my son eats, because he's only 5 months old, so like he eats and he's just immediately like drunk, like in his swing out cold. My daughter goes down, so I usually try to time it where my son eats, then I put my daughter down for a nap, and then I should have like a good 2 hours where I can just get to work on something and crank it out. And if you kind of plan it that way, and you have like a plan for doing some building and some painting, then you can really get some work done. And that's what I do, is I just steal time. After I get home, I sometimes sit and build. The light's not great in my bedroom. Although I do have like lamps and stuff I can take with me. So what I tend to do is I'll build models, or I'll do like admin stuff. So I'll do like my expenses and stuff for the co-op. I'll organize receipts. I'll set stuff to upload overnight. Whatever it is I'm doing, I tend to try and fit into the odd hours that I can do it in. And so that tends to be how I get so much stuff done and still have 2 kits and recording, and and it doesn't get stale too. Because I find if you do it when you have the opportunity, you tend to enjoy it more, because it's actually the true definition of what a hobby is, right? A hobby is a mundane task to occupy your forebrain while your hindbrain is decompressing all of its stuff, right? So it distracts your forebrain so that all of the static in the back of your head can get like organized and resorted. Like when you're defragmenting a hard drive, when you're trying to fix your computer if you have a PC. So for organizing projects, that's really it. And then I'm lucky in that I have I book appointments with people, right? So if you want to come play me, you send me an email, girlmentiongames@gmail.com. You message me through your Facebook page. You say, hey, I'm going to be in town this time or that time or whatever. Can we play a game? And I'll usually it sometimes takes me some time to get back to people because I have so many messages coming in, so many emails. But I'll usually say, yeah, and I'll get it on the calendar. And then I know if I want to do something new, if I have this pile of projects, I go, wow, you know what? This guy wants to play Blood Bowl against me, so I'm going to go get a Blood Bowl team painted. Or this guy wants to play Mordheim, so I'm going to get some Mordheim scenery built. Or if this guy wants to do this 40k army, so I'm going to build these 40k models that I've sitting on my shelf for a while. And it gives me like a deadline for stuff. And so other people, you could use tournaments for that. You could use, hey buddy who I play games with, let's play this game and try and have this stuff finished by that time. Like just drawing a line in the sand where you have to have it done. That's the best way for me to get organized. I have to have a deadline. And then little projects at a time. Like don't try and do too much at once. Squirrel Dude asks, what's your preferred style to play in Blood Bowl? Dwarf and Orc style Bash and Grind, Elf Skaven style Steal and Pass, Chaos North style Murder Ball, Stunty Ball, 5th option. I tend to play humans a lot. Like, I like playing a flexible game in Blood Bowl. I don't tend to just cage up like dwarves and orcs do, and then like move the cage downfield. Caging, if you don't know what that means, is you got a guy the ball, and he's got to be fairly durable, so he's maybe got block or he's got dodge or something like that. And then you cage around him. So you put players around him to throw multiple overlaying tackle zones so the guys can't just dodge in and hit him. And if they do hit him, they're being supported by a whole bunch of players. That's called caging. And then what tends to happen is you're not trying to score a touchdown in one turn. You're just trying to bash guys out of the way every turn and then move the cage 2 or 3 spaces towards the end zone. And caging tactics in Blood Bowl mean that you don't tend to win by a lot. You win by 1 or 2 touchdowns. And you actually want to try and win on like the 6th turn, and then like maybe on the 12th or 13th turn, because that way you're giving your opponent, if you have possession and you're taking 6 turns to score, you're only giving your opponent 2 or 3 turns to score back, and you can just play deep defense and not worry about it. But I like humans, and humans tend to just be kind of jack of all trades. You can advance your team to do a whole bunch of things. My Teutonic Supersonics, which is my Middenheim team, my human plastic Middenheim team, all converted up, might be my favorite team I've ever played with. And so I like to play a flexible game. So I tend to like them. I like some elf teams, more high elves probably than wood elves or dark elves, because they tend to be a little more flexible. I do like orcs, because orcs can actually play a passing game, like surprisingly, like, because you think of orcs as being like agility bad. They're not. Only their hitters are really agility bad. For the most part, they're just slow, heavily armored humans. So they can play a fairly good mid game. So yeah, that tends to be, I tend to play a flexible game. So not bash and grinds, not steal and pass, more just as needed. Either you know, using caging tactics when I have to, trying to steal and you know, cage down the field. I play a midfield game for the most part, and that's it. Loki Doki asks, any plans for a fantasy campaign, perhaps an escalation campaign with new armies? It's probably not going to be a campaign, but we have big plans for 9th edition. So when 9th edition comes out, you're going to see all new armies. Like, this is why I haven't done a lot of new stuff for fantasy, because we've known it's been coming out for months, and I didn't want to do a whole bunch of work on stuff when I could be doing work on other stuff, right? I'd be bringing you awesome Throwback Thursdays. I can be bringing you all kinds of other things with the time and effort that it would take for me to add or build a new fantasy army. And so I know I've gotten a lot of comments of like, hey, this sucks. I don't want to see ogres anymore. I don't want to see dwarves anymore. But there's been method to my madness, right? Like, I'm doing this for a very good reason, which is I have all kinds of other things I can bring you in the meantime. New, you know, armies for other games, and 9th edition's coming around, and we're going to go at it, I think, full bore. So it should be pretty exciting. I think fantasy for 9th edition, you guys are going to enjoy what we do, or I hope you guys are going to enjoy what we do. I'm certainly excited about it, and we should have not just all new armies, but I mean, like, we're going to do the current new armies and stuff like that. And yeah, and I have a pretty talented group of guys I'll be doing it with too. So we're gonna try and get it done ASAP, and then just keep adding to it all summer long. And it's gonna be a summer. It's gonna be the summer of the apocalypse, man. The apocalypse in fantasy and the apocalypse everywhere else. It's gonna bring you a whole bunch of other post-apocalyptic games throughout the summertime. So I think it's gonna be pretty cool, because I like post-apocalyptic stuff, and everything seems to be coming up post-apocalypse, including Warhammer, which is my favorite game to play big games of. And you'll see all kinds of stuff for that. Hey Ash, any suggestions for brush and brush maintenance? I find my GW brush only lasts a few months at best. What am I doing wrong? Well, you gotta wash your brushes. I know it sounds trite, but this stuff, brush cleaner, I'd be washing my brushes every week, probably. And then just other general brush maintenance. Make sure you're not getting, so your brush has what's called a plug in it. That's the thing that holds the bristles in. I'm gonna show you a jacked up old brush, because I just use this to stir paint pots. So the plug is what's inside the end here, like down here. If paint gets into that, and that top little bit right there, that's what holds the bristles apart. So it dries, normally your bristles are like this, and if it dries inside the plug with your bristles open, then the bristles can't naturally start to close up anymore. So making sure you squeeze all the paint out of the plug, make sure that your brush has a point on it when you put it away and it's not flared, so that the bristles can't dry in a spread pattern. That's all going to help your bristles to last longer. Keep pointing your brush. You will lose bristles eventually, that's just attrition, but the more you take care of your brushes, like while you're using them, and making sure you're getting all the paint on them, and then just cleaning them every now and again with some warm water and some brush soap, they will last a lot longer. Like this detail brush I'm painting with right now, Citadel Detail Brush, I've probably had for like 4 years. And I paint a lot of models. I'm at like 130 models for this year so far. We're about halfway through the year. So I'd like to get over 200 models. I got to 180 something models last year. I'd like to get over 200 models this year. I'm hoping painted and get a good chunk of my unbuilt, unpainted pile dead. Oh, I haven't actually, I have more than that because I painted that Gothic fleet and I haven't added that to my tally yet, I don't think. It's good to think about. Actually, a bunch of scenery too. Kangarang! It's Bangarang Kangarang. He asks, really getting into painting minis, but why do you eat your paintbrush while you're doing it? I'm just curious. This is a funny story. So a little bit of my art teaching or art training, coming back from in time. Ages ago, what painters have done is put a point in the brush by licking it. Because if you lick your brush, you naturally put a point on it. And that tended in ancient times to drive painters insane because the paints they would be using are poisonous. And yes, it's a bad habit, and no, it's a habit I can't really break. And spit, I'll be honest with you, as my buddy Chris will attest to this, spit is the greatest medium of all for thinning your paints with. And I would not disagree. I have licked my paintbrush for years. Now, this has given rise to many unfortunate incidents. Like for once, I remember actually the same guy, my buddy Chris and I, were painting Confrontation miniatures. This is when Confrontation 3.5 came out, and we were obsessed with it. Just completely loved the game. We were really trying to push ourselves with painting, like experimenting with new brushes, new paint lines, and we just gotten into Vallejo model color. It had just kind of started to blow up as a miniature paint line, and we'd gone and just sort of splurged on a bunch of sort of random colors that we didn't have access to in the Citadel line. And we're sitting, I think we were watching like old VHS for like WCW wrestling recordings in his apartment. And I'm painting and he's painting. We're just sitting on the couch painting. And he looks at me, he's like, no, I think I looked over at him and I went, did they tongue kiss them? And he goes, yeah, I think he does. It was because we were licking our paintbrushes and there was something in the Vallejo paints that was like literally like numbing our mouths. And we didn't really feel very good afterwards. Like, that was when we were like, maybe we should not be licking our paintbrushes when this is going on because my tongue's numb. And so yeah, no, I know it's a bad habit. I do it anyway. For the most part, all the paints I use are water-based acrylics that are completely non-toxic, which is the entire Citadel line. If I was going to die from eating paint, I would have probably about 20 years ago. So yeah, why? That's the question. I use it to thin my paints to get a little bit of moisture into my paintbrush before I put it in the paint. And I also use it to put a point on my bristles. And yes, it's a bad habit, and yes, I shouldn't probably do it, but I love it, and I'm not going to stop! Vince the Dwarf asks, hi Ash, what do you think about the lore of the dwarves in the end times? Because I think Games Workshop raped the dwarves in the end times and they gave them no chance to defend themselves. I think it's the apocalypse, dude, and bad things happen. Here's the thing with the dwarves, they don't like change. And if anybody was gonna not make the change through like some kind of post-apocalyptia very well, it's probably them. They are literally the most change-averse race in Warhammer Fantasy Battle. And so like to change even tactics to try and survive, they are not the people for that. They will not change. They will go screaming into that final night to keep things the way that they are and to defend their homeland. So like even to like evacuate a hold, the dwarves won't do it, right? Like if there was some, like let's say a giant portal appears in Karazakrak and Tekla steps up and goes to Thorgrim, I can rescue you, I'll take you to this magical land far away where everything's purple and, you know, it rains gumdrops. Thorgrim would just be like, dude, I was born here, I'm gonna die here. Like, get out of here, Teklas. And they would just die. And there'd be nothing anybody could do about it because that's the psychology of dwarves. So I don't think they got raped, man. I think they just acted like dwarves and got killed because of it. And yes, I play dwarves. I love my dwarf army. And I think they went out like dwarves. They died defending their homes, which is exactly what dwarves would do. It's a Pyrrhic victory, right? But that's kind of what the dwarves are all about. They've been going extinct for the entire Warhammer Fantasy timeline, and it just finally got finished. The end times just sort of finished the job. Sad as that may be, but when you're not willing to change, that's a slow death. Machine Spirit asks, favorite Primarch? Loaded question, favorite Primarch. I see, the thing is that like, it's interesting, as the Horus Heresy writing has gone on, the writing of the Primarchs has been a bit schizophrenic, right? Like, because different people write the Primarchs. I like different Primarchs better at different times. So like, for instance, when Aaron Dembski Bowden writes Conrad Kurz, I really like Conrad Kurz because he seems to always be like a step ahead of everybody, right? And he's just this like grim, cynical, like death specter that's always like 2 feet ahead of everybody. So like in the first Heretic, that's the Conrad Kurz that I wish was the Kurz that, you know, was always, right? The one that's basically saves Lorgar, even though he hates Lorgar and he knows that Lorgar is scum. And that's different from the way that other people have written him. So to say that, because he's very melancholy and like overly dramatic later on, as other people write them, and so that's an interesting thing to kind of think about, because it almost depends by book. Like in some books, I like certain Primarchs more than others. Like I don't like the Leman Russ of, what's the one I read just recently? The one where he basically almost like loses his entire chapter trying to hunt. I think it's the Night Lords actually. I don't like that Russ because he's stubborn and he's not wise and he's not pretending to be this warrior chieftain, and when actually he's not pretending to be the noble savage, which is what the Dan Abnett Leman Russ is doing. The Dan Abnett Leman Russ is like always 2 steps ahead and very self-aware, and he plays the noble savage to like be off-putting to his enemies to get people to underestimate him when he actually isn't. In this one, he actually is the noble savage. And so I think it changes almost book by book what my favorite Primarch is. They all have, the whole idea is, I think, in the writing of the Horus Heresy, is they're all more human than human, but entirely human too, right? They all have their flaws and their strengths. So for all the things that we love them for, there's these things that we hate them for as well. So for the amazing statesmanship of Guilliman, there's also his unwillingness to commit that we hate him for. For all of the nobility of Sanguinus, there's the melancholy and the fear of like the inevitable future that he's seen that we hate about him. It makes him hesitate and like, you know, ponder and not decisive. So I think it's funny. If I was to pick one that I like the most, I would have to go by book. I think the Leman Russ from Prospero Burns is probably my favorite version of Leman Russ, because he's very like, he has this discussion with the Skald about Ibn the Skald, who's the storyteller that's like, he's the remembrancer that's following his chapter around about the invasion of Prospero, and at one point the Skald says, oh, that it could come to this, and he kind of looks knowingly at the Skald and says, you think this is the first time this has happened? You think this is the first time that, you know, brothers fought brother and Marines have been executed, and that this has occurred? And there's this moment of shock, right, where the storyteller realizes he's being serious and that this has happened before, and that no one knows that these you know, Emperor's angels are corruptible and they're not perfect, and they don't have all the answers, and they're not gods. They're just men that have like the power of God. So that's my favorite version of him. And then I'm trying to think of who else. I think that's it. I can't think of other specific books. I think that I've never particularly liked Dorn. I think Dorn's never been portrayed very well, except for in the Lightning Tower, where he feels fear for the first time, and he realizes that he can feel fear, because he fears Kurz, because Kurz almost kills him. I really enjoyed a scene with Petarabo in it, where the Doomsday Mechanicus, like Golgotha and Ordinatus, are basically seized by the Dark Angels, and the Dark Angels think they're handing them over to safety, and they're giving them to Petarabo, and Petarabo's like, yeah, buddy, I'll look after him, it'll be fine. So yeah, no, I think it changes by book. I think that's my answer. There's a few examples I can give you of my ones that I've enjoyed. And Taros asks, sup bro, question about War Machine, do you think the game will benefit from a Warcaster customization system to make your own Warcasters? I think narratively, here's the thing. I think that the game's audience would broaden if you can do that. Because one of the things that I think is a struggle for some people in wargaming, I'm not talking about War Machine players already, I'm talking about people who play war games in general, is they are used to being able to carve out their own little corner of the universe in the games that they play, right? And so what that means is they have the ability to imprint their own army type and style and character and narrative on the game that they're playing. And that exists in pretty much every wargame. The other wargame I can think of that doesn't do that is Malifaux. It's fairly heavily character-driven, just like War Machine is. And there isn't a lot of customization. And so what tends to happen is that's a game designed to be a game, not necessarily designed with a lot of hobby side in mind. And I think to answer your question, I think it would attract more people, but I think the people playing it now, it wouldn't work for. It would just be a new way to sort of milk the most benefit out of whatever you could do. So by designing a system like that, inherently, with the law of secondary consequences, you're designing something that people can break, and there will all of a sudden be a best build for that Warcaster system. And the people already playing the game, that's what they'll do. They'll just decide this is the best way to build this Warcaster, and so this is how we're building it, and this is all we're ever going to play. It would be the same if they designed like a Jack design system, which again, I think they should do. Like, I think that would if they could come out with great multi-part plastic, hard styrene Jack kits, then that's exactly what they should do. They should create some kind of Jack customization system that allows you to make your own Warjacks and use them however you like in the game. But for the current audience, the current people they're catering to, I don't think it will have... It might attract new people. I don't think it will affect the people. It'll just be something new for them to break that are playing it competitively. Not break, sorry, to optimize and play with. Steve Juranek asks, have you taken a look at BattleTech Alpha Strike? I have, yeah, no, I've seen the box set. Again, I haven't played BattleTech in years, just to answer the same question I answered at the beginning of the show. But yeah, no, it looks okay. I think BattleTech could use some new miniatures. That's my one thing, is that I will happily like play a game of BattleTech with somebody if they want to like come in and play a game of BattleTech. I won't have anything for it. Like, I won't have the rules and stuff, because to me the problem with BattleTech has always been, one, their creation system for writing armies and creating the things is very time intensive, and I'm not super into that if it doesn't coincide with making beautiful miniatures. And that's the second thing, is the miniatures are very dated, and so I'm not super excited about them. I am, however, excited about the new heavy gear, so maybe you'll see me play that. Michael asks, hey Ash, I see you have so many well-painted models. Do you have any time for time-saving painting tips? Which won't adversely affect the quality too much? Thanks in advance. Paint lots of stuff at once. So like I'm painting 2 fleets of ships right now in front of me, and I'm just going through and doing all the light colors on all the ships. So I think that the number one thing with doing it like this, doing a kind of production line painting, you have to be willing to stop in the middle of something, and you have to be able to break it down into achievable tasks. So it's like it's like how do you eat an elephant, right? One bite at a time. You have to be able to break it into achievable steps that you can get through in a reasonable amount of time, and then be able to put it down there. I know a lot of people that struggle to paint because they don't feel like they're getting anywhere. But if there's one thing I know about any kind of like big project work, is that you have to outline stages, and those stages have to be, you have to have your SMART goals. So specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-based. And painting is exactly like that. So like, for instance, right now, I don't think I'm going to get these 2 fleets done in the hour-ish that I'm talking to you guys, but I'm going to try and get as many colors in as I humanly possibly can, and I'll break at the end of a color. So I'll decide I'm done as I finish a color. So right now, for instance, I'm going across, I'm doing metal, like bulk on metal, or actually Ironbreaker, on all the metallic bits on all these ships, and when that's finished, I may very well be done. That might be as far as I get tonight, and I will just come back and pick it up another day, with a new color, basically, and go along and add another color, which will probably be gold. Chief Tugboat asks, have you ever heard of or played the Heralds of Ruin Kill Team rule set? Thoughts and maybe some bat reps in the future? Thanks for all your hard work. The Heralds of Ruin is the like expanded one, isn't it? I think I'm on their Facebook group. I don't know. I tend to turn notifications. I'm on so many Facebook groups, I tend to turn the notifications off for them just immediately. And then if I'm interested in going and seeing what they're up to, I'll just go and like surf to the site. But I think that's the one with like the expanded Kill Team set. I love Kill Team personally. I have a Night Lords Kill Team that I'm super proud of, that I didn't play a lot of games with, but I had a lot of fun building. I would certainly play Kill Team games in the future. I think I would enjoy that. I would be willing to give it a try, for sure. If someone wanted to come play Kill Teams, I have lots of Kill Team stuff, and I love the excuse of building and painting a few really cool models to play a game. So if someone wanted to play Kill Teams, wanted to challenge me to a Kill Team game, and we could get a narrative or something going, I would be totally up for that, with the proviso that we all build something specifically for that narrative, and then we play like a series of like 2 or 3 games telling that story. Like, that'd be awesome, because that's totally the hobby I'm into, and that's the way that I like to play 40K, especially, is with some kind of story in mind, because it's such a great narrative universe. Dave asks, would you be willing to play older games like BFG with proxies, like printable cutouts for the sake of playing and showing the game to the channel? I'll be honest, man, I'll do the work to find everything. Like, if I'm going to play a game and show it to the channel, I want people to see it the way it's supposed to be seen. That's with miniatures. Like, I wouldn't play it with proxies. Like, here's the thing, is if I'm going to show people stuff, I think that people come to have kind of an expectation that the stuff's on my channel is pretty. Like, and by pretty, I don't mean like Golden Demon, well, there's no such thing anymore, but like a competition level paint job. But I mean that, you know, there's a logical terrain setup. Like, the terrain is all matching and it all has a theme, and the miniatures are all painted, and, you know, the armies are nice. Like, I don't think I would. One, I wouldn't personally want to do it because there's no, it breaks the immersion for me to use like proxies or cardboard counters, unless they're just like game counters, like, you know, in BFG. And two, that's not what gets me excited. What gets me excited is playing with something I've made. And so no matter what it is, I would just dig up the stuff to do it. Like, Jason's been talking about playing Gorkamorka lately, and he's been sitting at home digging up all his orc bits and being like, let's do this, let's do that. And I don't have any orc bits. I think I have some orc bits, but not very many. But I'll totally make a Gorkamorka game. Like, just to play Gorkamorka, I'll find stuff in my bits boxes that I can use to go and do that. So I don't think I would use proxies. Like, I'll be honest with you, I think I would rather we challenge ourselves to make something that looks cool and show what can be done, as opposed to just cutting corners for the sake of like getting it done. I would rather wait and do it right. Zach asks, what would you say is the biggest draw to get you into a minis game? It's the models. It's easy. That's the models. If something has a new, like, that was I think I just said that with 9th edition, right? I saw the monitors and I was like, done, sorted. Don't even care what the gameplay's like. Don't care about anything. Just saw giant angel men with hammers and shields. Like, woo, finished. If it's got cool miniatures, like, I'm down. Or if it has a theme that I'm super into, right? Like, I'm willing to do a lot of work if it's a theme or a trope that I'm into, like zombies or the apocalypse or, you know, spaceships or something like that. Like, I will make a lot of effort into getting it right and doing it myself. So yeah, the models, the theme, the thing, it's my imagination. Whatever it is that kicked off my imagination, that's what gets me into a minis game. And we're coming up on 45 minutes. Do you think Space Marines were inspired by Sardaukar? Yeah, Usul asks, sorry. Totally. If you own a copy of the Rogue Trader rulebook and you've really read it, you'll realize that the entirety of Rogue Trader, of that sci fantasy universe, was a giant in-joke to the science fiction fantasy of the time. So there are nods to Frank Herbert's Dune, to Starship Troopers, to Michael Moorcock's Elric Saga and the Gods of Chaos. Like, everywhere populated inside the lore of Warhammer 40,000 and even Warhammer are nods to the great science fiction and fantasy writers of the time. Like, that's just, you have to understand, the guys that were in the studio at that point, that's their contemporary sci-fi and fantasy. So that's the thing that got them jazzed in the morning to go up and write games. And that's what they were doing, is they were taking what inspired them and putting it into these miniature games. So yeah, absolutely. The Sardaukar, these genetically bred super soldiers of the Padishar Emperor, they are absolutely Space Marines. But then power armor, right? Stolen right from Heinlein's ape suits. Although the ape suits are way cooler, to be honest with you, with mini nukes, and they can jump like a mile at a time. They have chain guns on them and stuff like that. But it's the same idea, right? It's a robotic suit of armor. Absolutely. Everything is inspired by that time. Alistair asks, hey Ash, you ever tried to make a rule set games from scratch? So how did it go? If not, would you give it a go? Yes, I have. I've answered this before. I have a zombie game that I wrote ages ago that may or may not see the light of day. My wife has actually been bugging me to get back to work on it. And she thinks I should do something about it for the channel, maybe for the anniversary of the channel turning 1 or something like that. And we'll see. Ty asks, are you going to do a little narrative intros for your battle reports? The intros for Altdorf and Flame series were great. I think something similar will make your content even better. I absolutely will for 9th edition. I think I'm really compelled right now by what I've heard so far about 9th edition, where the old world, so the old world as we knew it, has been enslaved by chaos. It's destroyed. It's turned into hell on earth. And all of the peoples and places of it are basically enslaved by chaos. I think that is cool as hell. One of my favorite Gaunt's Ghost books are the ones from the Lost trilogy, so the series where they are on a chaos planet and they've basically been fighting this guerrilla war against the chaos peoples, and you see what happens when chaos takes over a planet and basically enslaves the population. I think that's cool as hell, man. Like, and what I think is awesome is the good guys are on the offensive. Like, this is no longer the 11th hour where mankind is constantly fighting this losing battle against the Battle of Chaos. Chaos is won, and then these doors open, and just this host of like golden armored murder machines descends on Chaos, and it's just like, get off our planet. That to me, there's something really cool as hell about that, and no matter what happens, I will be making my own characters and forging my own narratives and telling my own stories. So I will probably pick a place or a setting when I get to read the rules or the lore and stuff like that, and just start fighting those battles. So you'll definitely see that. Sneggy asks, why do you think there's such a negative culture surrounding Games Workshop currently? Example, everything being regarded as over-underpowered, or complaints about rapid releases, blah, blah, blah. It's funny. I don't think it's new. I think when you are the biggest fish, then no one goes to the internet to write good things about you. Satisfied customers, how am I going to put this? It's a lot like political motivations these days. You only really get people to get out and vote by making them angry or making them scared. No one writes love letters on the internet. Everybody writes things to try and gain sympathy. And what I mean by sympathy is to get people to feel the same way as you. So if you're angry, you want people to also be angry. If you're happy, you have no need to go and do that. Like, if you're satisfied and you're feeling good, you're feeling good. You don't need to go and make other people feel good. Well, some people do, and those people, God bless them, are fantastic. Like, I hope that that's, you know, a thing that people do someday. But I don't think those people are very thick on the ground. And I think that there's a real dearth of negativity, because that's what people go to the internet to do, regardless if it's about Games Workshop. Like, I remember a while ago, like ages ago, I was driving this 2003 Jetta while I was in Memphis, and I had something going. I had like a fuse going or something like that. And when the fuse went, I went to the dealer, and the dealer couldn't figure out what was wrong with it. So what they did was they went to the Volkswagen forums, because 9 times out of 10, if you have something wrong with your car, the dealer and the actual like manufacturer don't usually know how to fix it. But some guy who's had the same problem and posts online may have, and that's your best bet to actually find out what the problem is. And so we did. We went to the Volkswagen forums, and I realized that the Volkswagen forums, for people who are enthusiasts of these automobiles, are the exact same as Games Workshop enthusiasts. There's a few people that are super helpful and are on there just to be excited, and there's a gajillion people that are on there just to tell you what a terrible car you've purchased and like why you should never purchase that car again, and like that's a mistake. And so I think that's it. It's not necessarily a Games Workshop phenomenon, man. It's just an internet phenomenon. People are choosing to make it because those people happen to be interested or happen to have an interesting Games Workshop. They are negative people. Their hobby is being negative on the internet, and they're choosing to be negative about Games Workshop at this time. And that's it. And they outnumber everybody else. So if you want to find happy people talking about stuff, go to your local store and find guys with painted armies that are having fun playing a game. And then you will be able to face-to-face talk to people who are satisfied, happy wargamers, because they are spending their time doing the thing they love doing, and their time isn't being spent complaining on the internet, which is the actual hobby of people that complain on the internet. Not playing toy soldiers. Because if you have 8 million forum posts and you spend a gajillion hours online looking at rumors, then when did you find time to paint miniatures and play games? Like, you need to accept at some point. Well, you don't need to accept it. You probably won't accept it. But your hobby is no longer miniature wargaming. Your hobby is complaining about miniature wargaming online. Corey asks, what Megaton Merc team is your favorite to play? I don't know. I quite enjoy the USCR because I enjoy the challenge of maneuvering something big and slow and heavy. I also really liked the Cephadu because the Cephadu are like super light, and you have to get them in the right place at the right time or you just get murdered. And they have some neat tricks too. They have the only other non-shooting close combat guy, which is the Berserker. Although even the Kemvar Assassin has a pistol. So I would say between those two. Wardog501 asks, 2 episodes ago you talked about wanting to expand miniature wargaming to the mass market, or not wanting to. What's your opinion on X-Wing? Pre-assembled and pre-panel models are pretty instant gratification. Yeah, man, X-Wing's great, but it's not a miniature game. It's a board game. It's a board game played with board game pieces that look like miniatures. So do I think that people play it like a miniature game? Absolutely they do. There are tons of people out there repainting X-Wing miniatures and playing them. But X-Wing is as much a miniature war game as Magic the Gathering is. You just happen to move your Magic cards around. It doesn't require you to do any work. You barely even have to assemble the miniatures. I think most of the miniatures actually come assembled in the box. So I qualify it as a war game, but it's not a miniature war game. It's a board game war game, the same way that like Axis and Allies and Risk is. It looks like a miniature game, but I think it's a great bridge game between miniature games and war games. I think it's a great way to get your board gaming friends to try something that's kind of like a miniature game and see if they'll get their feet into it. But I wouldn't consider it to be a miniature game. And I'm super happy that it's been as successful as it is, because I think it's a great bridge market tool between those two things. But I think it's a board game. I don't think it's a miniature game. Nero Long asks, what would be your favorite gaming world to live in? Ooh, I don't know, man. Most of the worlds that I game in are pretty screwed up. Like there's something wrong in pretty much all of them that would make it a shit place to live. I think if you're living in the Empire, in the old world, you're pretty lucky to wake up and have your asshole attached. So we'll see. If I was going to live in one and be a white guy in my middle age, that's in a middling economic class, dude, I don't know. Malifaux? It's turn of the century. Things are looking up. I could live on Earth or maybe through the breach and hopefully not have some kind of like waking nightmare murder me while I'm walking around the streets. Yeah, Malifaux sounds cool. Land of opportunity. Lots of capitalism. Vladimir asks, hey Ash, want to know, did you ever do any role-playing games? If so, what was the most fun game you ever played? I didn't really. I owned a lot of those games for either the art in the books or for the theme that they were in. So like, for instance, I loved Brahm. He's an artist from like the mid-90s. He actually did art for a miniature game called Dark Age. And he had an RPG called Dark Sun. And I read tons of the TSR novels that were like associated with RPGs, but I never actually played the RPGs themselves. So like I owned Dark Sun books for like reading the background stuff because I read all the novels, but I never played Dark Sun. I owned a bunch of Rifts books too, because actually I thought Rifts was a miniature game because it had miniatures, and I thought it was. And then I realized reading the books that maybe it would be a better miniature game than a RPG, because you kind of start off as good as you're ever going to be, and maybe your handwriting gets better. That was kind of it. So yeah, I think that I never really played any, but I do have those two, and Planescape coming to mind as having great art and cool backgrounds and stuff. TMNT as well, the Palladium one. I read the background book books as a Ninja Turtle fan, so those are pretty cool. That's really all that comes to mind. And Gil asking, this is my last question, what do you think of Chaos Dwarfs, and do I think 9th edition will leave them out? Thanks. I honestly don't know, dude. Right now they are a Warhammer Forge only line. I really hope that if there is some kind of Ravening Hordes to like adapt all the current armies to the new edition, that they're in there, but not available in stores, so I really don't know. I don't think I can tell you. I would like to think they would be, but yeah, don't know. Pegsmo asks, any good advice for long distance wargaming? This will be the last one. Digital, webcam, whatever. I think honestly, dude, long distance wargaming is like anything else. You can do it by Skype maybe a little bit. There's a thing called Vassal that I know lots of people use, which is basically a pre-programmable tabletop where you can put the rules for it in and move stuff around. I know tons of people that play Vassal to play War Machine or Malifaux, or even some of the sort of like less popular or sort of like non-mainstream games. Heavy Gear gets played a lot on Vassal and stuff too. Those would be the two that I would really say are big ones. And then that's really it. I think Skype, I know, gets used a lot for D&D. I know tons of people that, I had a buddy who moved to Memphis from Seattle, and he used to meet up with every Sunday with his D&D group on Skype and still keep playing D&D like for years. I think that's super awesome. But yeah, wargaming, because of the tactile like physicality of it, where you need to move pieces and stuff, I don't know that that's something that, without using a computer program like Vassal, is super duper easy to do. That's really the most I know about that. So there we go. I hope you guys enjoyed my piece of Ash. I managed to get all the dry brushing done and the bulk gun done on my Imperial ships. I'll get over hopefully the Chaos ones next. And yeah, I hope that you enjoyed asking questions and getting some answers. So Like I said in the beginning, if you didn't get your question answered, I got through 33 questions, which is pretty good for me. I usually get in the mid-30s. Click the link below and go to SurveyMonkey, and that's going to let you ask me more questions to find out what you wanted to know about the world of war games and wargaming. Until then, this is my July episode. You got 3 questions for August. We'll see you in August. I hope you enjoyed this one. We'll see you for the next one. You can check me out on my channel, like I said, to get in touch with me, Guerrilla Miniature Games, which is YouTube/C/Guerrilla Miniature Games, I'm pretty sure, which is what you're on right now. Just hit subscribe. And then my Facebook page, which is facebook.com/outofthebasement-into-the-streets, or guerrillaminiaturegames.wordpress.com, which is my blog. And you can get in touch with me through all 3 of those things. If you do want to come play a game, shoot me an email. I am pretty super booked up. People have been playing with me hot and heavy, but I'm excited about 9th edition. So if you are also excited about 9th edition, shoot me an email, get some 9th edition armies ready, and we will rock and roll. So we'll see you for more Piece of Ash in the future. Until then, thanks for watching. Happy Wargaming.